Today on No Rules Reviews, I'm going to be looking at Fleet and its expansion Arctic Bounty. Fleet is a game I love. It's a game where you're running a fishing company, you're building your engine, there's auctions, so there's fun stuff. It plays 2 to 4 players, with expansion it goes up to about 6, and it only plays in about 45 minutes. It's designed by Benjamin Pinchback and Matt Riddle. It was published by Eagle Griffin Games, and it's absolutely fantastic. If you don't know how to play and you want to, you can check out the link in the description first. But if you want to hear why I think it's that great, let's dive right in. First of all, let me just gush about the game a little bit. The amount of stuff in this little box is absolutely fantastic. It's a game that could be in a full-sized Euro box, and I wouldn't bat an eyelid at it due to the depth of decisions, the amount of stuff you get, everything that's going on. If space is a concern, it's a game that absolutely has to be in your collection. And it's not just space. If cost is a concern for you, £15 for the base game is an absolute steal. And if time is a concern for you, a really deep game that plays in 45 minutes. And there's no rules to that as well. It's absolutely fantastic. There's a lovely flow to the game, and when players are familiar with it, the simultaneous turns make it even quicker. It's a great game. So why am I gushing about it so much? What makes it so great? Well, first of all, your decisions matter a ton. There's a really good sense of, damn it, I overpaid for that. It leaves you wanting to play again and do something differently. You're never going to sit there going, where did I go wrong in this game? There's a really good feeling of, that was a good decision, that was a bad decision, you know? Oh, I went for a second COD license, and I should have actually gone and got the lobster instead. Those kind of feelings when you're analysing the game afterwards are really, really great. You won't feel like the point salad Euro where you go, well, I got 130 points, and did I actually do very well, or did you do something a bit better? Where did you win? You're never asking that question. You can tell what someone did better than you, and for me, that's a huge bonus. And Fleet uses multi-use cards, which I think give you interesting decisions, and it makes your bidding very painful. You know, paying 2 cards is much worse than paying 1 card. Paying 3 cards is much worse than 2, 4 cards is much worse than 3, and so on. But sometimes you will want to do that. You know, not being able to do a launch or do a captain, but getting that license, it's a really great decision to have to make. It's really interesting to balance that cost versus benefit there. And the auction on the first turn is also really interesting. You know, a bid of 5 you can pay with 2 of the cards. A bid of 6 is 3. Bidding more than that is, I've never really gone that far, but because at the start it's a huge amount of cards, and do you even want to launch a boat on your first turn, or do you maybe just want to save those there because a really good license came up and you want to get that on the second turn? But if you don't, well, other people get ahead of you. If you have processing, you need to have a boat launched. The decisions are great. And one particular decision with auction I think is fantastic is when there's 2 of the same license come up and you want it. And you go, well, should I bid up this first lobster license? Or should I hope that no one else wants the second one and just try and get that one on the cheap? You know, I've played a game where I made the decision. I got the first lobster license. I paid 5 for it, got it at the cost because there was 1 left and someone left it. And then 2 of them were bidding against each other and it sold for 8 or 9. And that's just a really interesting way the game can go. But more than anything, I like to do stuff in a game. You know, doing stuff is just great. Getting stuff, all fun. I love the feeling of progress where you start with nothing and you end up with a ton, right? You start off not being able to do much. At the end, I'm going to do 2 launches, chuck some captains in, draw 15 cards. You get to do so much stuff as you build up the bonuses. But the fact that half of the power of the license is the same whether I have 1 or whether I have 4 means that maybe I want to go for a wide playstyle where I get all the different licenses. Maybe I want to go for a tall playstyle where I focus on getting loads of COD licenses. You know, having 1 COD, 1 lobster, 1 shrimp license is great. But having 3 COD licenses is also great. Which is better? Well, it will depend on the situation. You know, there's definitely a tactical level about it. You have to adapt to what's come out in that particular game, what licenses are available at that particular point. But because after you've bid on the licenses, you can see the ones which are going to be available for next round, there's definitely scope for kind of longer term planning as well. And I haven't even begun to talk about Arctic Bounty. Arctic Bounty is everything I want in expansion. For me, there is no expansion better than Arctic Bounty. It perfectly encapsulates what I think an expansion should be. It gives you more of what you want without bloating the game with extra rules and exceptions. And I'm going to be talking about kind of all the little mini expansions and the promos and stuff together, as well as Arctic Bounty, because all this stuff to me is kind of just, you know, more fleet that you will get if you like the game. So the trophies, I love the trophies. End game point scoring give you an extra decision to make. Do you want to maybe point my strategy a bit more towards those, or if everyone is going to be fighting them out, maybe I can go a different way and be the only person doing it. The crab meeples, they give the player with a processing license an interesting decision, because now they can't blindly process. They have to think, well, how badly do I want to do this? And everyone is sat there going, oh, well, should I launch? Because then I'm getting close to that crab. But maybe what I want to do is save my cards for the license I just saw come up. And again, it's giving you a more interesting decision. And that's fantastic. The crewmen, I think, are a really, really great thing. I will say you have to be quite familiar with the game for the crewmen to be useful. But they're just an extra thing to think about with the bidding. And all the different types of dock cards, obviously, are great because they give you tons of more variety. I could have played this, I did play this game so many times at the base game, but I could play it so many more times with all this different variety. The only additional content I'm not really big on is the weather authority, because that's just got a bit too much of the kind of the randomness, and some people will be against kind of the Canadian DFW and its take that nature where you're stealing fish from other players. And if I can just pontificate a little bit longer about the game, let me just talk about the theme, because I've never played a game where you're running a fishing company like it. I think it's a great theme, and I'm sure there's someone sitting there going, oh, I think running a fishing company is a terrible theme, it doesn't sound interesting to me at all. But no one has ever refused to play it with me on the basis of theme. But more important than that is how the theme ties in with the mechanics, because that makes the rules easy to learn. A boat without a captain is not going to get any fish, and once a boat's full of fish, it can't fish anymore. And when you have those kind of tie-ins with the rules, with the theme, it makes everything easier. So I think I've been pretty clear that I love this game, but I can come up with a criticism or two. And I think the big one is that I would hate to recommend an expansion to fix the base game, but without the gone fishing cards, it can be extremely punishing, particularly in the early rounds. The drawing 2 cards if you don't win an auction house rule really does work as a stand-in. And why is the game so punishing there? Well, like I say, on the first turn, let's say I bought a shrimp license and decided I did want to launch that boat. I'm not going to have any money left, really. I'm going to be relying on my draw 2, discard 1 at the end of the round. Where am I going to get any extra money in the second turn? I don't have any card draw, so I'm waiting till the end of the round again. And now I'm sitting there with like 3 cards in my hand, bidding against people who've maybe been drawing things before. Whereas now, if I didn't manage to get that license on the second turn, I'm getting some extra coins, and I'm having more decisions I can make. But once again, even throughout the game, what the Gone Fishing cards do is they add an extra decision to be made. Right? Do I want to buy a license now, or actually is the bonus of 2 coins going to be worth it? All the other cons I'm going to say are going to be ones that are basically ignorable. But if they made a Fleet 2nd edition, I would expect the Gone Fishing cards to be in the base game. They're that important to me. I might hesitate to include some of the other expansion content if I was playing with a new player, but I would never miss out the Gone Fishing cards. So I did just talk a bit there about the punishing nature of the game, so maybe I should expand on that. Because as I say, you can easily cripple yourself on the first turn, even with those Gone Fishing cards available. I kind of think of that as a bit of a pro. I like a bit of punishment in my games though. I think you do need to have consequences for bad decisions, because if there is no consequence, then why does my decision matter? And if there's too much catch up, or the games are too handholdy, I just don't feel any sense of accomplishment. I do think though that in the world of the Cult of the New, the first playthrough matters a ton. If you're not enjoying your first playthrough because you messed up on the first turn, are you going to give this game another look at, or are you going to go and say, I'm going to play 100 other new games? Like I said, for me, the punishing aspect of the game is actually a plus. And there are some people who take it to an extreme, and they're kind of the opinion, oh well, if you can't lose the game on the first turn, then the first turn shouldn't exist. Another possible con is the setup. It can be a little bit fiddly to count out 25 fish per player. That's why I keep my fish in baggies of 25, you're counting at the end, which makes it a bit easier when you're putting the game away. If you have Arctic Bounty and you want to kind of change out which boats you're using, that can also be a pain, because you've got to go through and go, okay, well, I'm going to take out all of the cod ones and add in all of my char ones from the other deck, and so on. Player counts below 4, I think, are a little bit of an issue, and there's 2 kind of reasons for this. The first one is that you don't have a clue what licenses have been removed. So if you're waiting around saying, oh, I just need another lobster license, I'm planning on that lobster license, must come up in the next 2 turns, and actually they've all been removed. That's no good. And you get to see fewer licenses. And I think seeing 4 licenses per turn is fantastic because that gives you a bit more of a breadth of decision. So I would definitely try and play with 4 in general if I can. Another possible con, I'm not sure how much I believe this one, but you could argue that processing is a bit too powerful in the base game. A lot of the kind of expansion content and the promos and things like the crab meeples, some of the trophies, various things like that, make processing less strong, but I don't think they make it less strong as an important fact to me. Again, I think what they do is they make it more of a decision. In the base game, should I process, should I not, is not much of a decision to be made. The answer is, the bulk of the time, yeah, I should, because the gold is going to be more useful. But like I say, you might be using that as an argument to say that processing is too powerful in the base game. There's obviously also an aspect of luck involved in the game. If I'm drawing tuna every round and getting 3 coins at the end of each turn for free, and you're getting 1 coin from your cod and your king crab, I'm going to be much richer. I don't find that too much of an issue, because there's kind of sufficient luck mitigation, because what you're doing is you're increasing your card draw. And the expansion actually kind of addresses this again, because the dock and bay cards give you options that even if you're drawing cards you can't use with one of your licenses, there's something that you can do. There's also the changes to the 2-player game in the expansion, and also the solo mode it's introduced. I have to be honest, I've played with this I think once or twice. I'm not really a fan of dummy player variants, but it's not bad. I'm sure if you like that kind of thing, you will love it. It's probably a perfectly fine solo game, but I don't feel like I can comment here. The tableaus that you're building can get quite big, can be a bit of a table hog, but you can kind of stack things in certain ways, so it's not too much of an issue. And if you're sleeving everything, probably the insert isn't great. I really like the insert. The 2 sections is really nice because I keep like my dock and bay cards underneath the licenses. When I just had the base game, what I did was I kept 4 starting hands with the player aids there. So again, it kind of cut down the setup time and we got straight into the game. Overall, I can't say enough positive things about Fleet. It's easily in my top 5 games, and I'd urge anyone to check it out. Like I said at the start, particularly if space, time, or money are concerns, I think it's a great game to look at. I think it plays fine at player counts above 4, because you can do your simultaneous turns in the 5 and 6 player one. I probably would just normally play with 4 in general, because maybe you're getting a bit too many decisions there to make. When there's 6 licenses to consider, it might take away some of kind of the tenseness of that. If I had to compare it to some other games, I'd say it's similar to Race for the Galaxy and San Juan. If you like those games, I think you'll love Fleet. But I'm not sure I would put that the other way around. I think if you hate those games, I'm not sure you would hate Fleet. I think Fleet is definitely more accessible than Race for the Galaxy because you don't have that iconography to deal with. But it's a game that I can't imagine ever tiring of, and hopefully I've convinced at least one person out there to go and try this game because it's absolutely fantastic. I backed Warside and I backed the Dice game on Kickstarter because I have so much faith in this game.